My name is Mimi. Chinese name is Zheng Xiaohan, and my student number is S064102. The title of the speech is Life in the Deep Oceans, and presented by David Gallo. I'm freshman in the English department. Applause, David Gallo. This is Bill Lange. I'm David Gallo, and we're going to tell you some stories from the sea here in video. We have got some of the most incredible video of Titanic that's ever been seen, and we're not going to show you any of it. Laughter. The truth of the matter is that the Titanic, even though it's breaking all sorts of box office records, it's not the most exciting story from the sea. And the problem, I think, is that we take the ocean for granted. When you think about it, the ocean are 75% of the planet. Most of the planet is ocean water. The average depth is about 2 miles. Part of the problem, I think, is we stand at the beach and we see image like this of the ocean. You look out at this great big blue expanse. It's shimmering and it's moving, and there's waves, there's surf, and there's tides. But you have no idea for what lie in there. And in the oceans, there are the longest mountain ranges on the planet. Most of the animals are in the ocean. Most of the earthquakes, the volcanoes are in the sea, at the bottom of the sea. The diversity and the biodensity in the ocean is higher in places than it is in the rainforest. It's mostly unexplored. And yet, there are beautiful signs like this that captivate us to make us become familiar with it. But when you are standing at the beach, I want you to think that you're standing at the edge of a very unfamiliar world. We have to have a very special technology to get into the unfamiliar world. We use the submarine, Alvin, and we use camera. And the camera are something that Bill Lange has developed with the help of Sony. Michael Pearce said the truth of voyage of discovery is not so much in seeking new landscape as in having new eyes. People that have partnered with us have given us a new eye, not only on what exists, the new landscapes at the bottom of the sea, but also how we think about life on the planet itself. Here's a jelly. It's one of my favorite because it's got all sorts of working parts. This turns out to be the longest creature in the ocean. It gets up to about 115 feet long, but see all these different working things. I love that kind of the stuff. It got these fishing lures on the bottom. They are going up and down. It got tentacles dangling, swirling around like that. It's a colonial animal. These are all individual animals banding together to make this one creature. And it got this jet thruster up in front that it will use in a moment. And a little light, if you take all the big fish and scrolling fish and all that, put them on one side of the scale, put all the jelly type of animals on the other side, those guys wing hands down. Most of the biomass in the ocean is made out of creatures like this. Here's the X-wing death jelly. Laughter. The bioluminescence that use the light for attracting mass and attracting prey and communicating, we couldn't begin to show you our archival stuff from the jellies. They come in all different sizes and shapes. Beyond, we tend to forget about the fact that the ocean is miles deep on average, and that we're real familiar with animals that are in the first 2,000 or 3,000 200 or 300 feet, but we're not familiar with what exists from there all the way down to the bottom. And these are the types of animals that live in that three-dimensional space, that microgravity environment that we really haven't explored. You hear about giant squid, like the things like that, but some of these animals get up to be approximately 160 feet long. They are very little understood. Dave Gallo, this is one of them, another one of our favorites because it's a little octopus. You can actually see through his head, and here he is flapping with his ears and very gracefully going up. We see those at the depth, and even at the greatest depth, they go from a couple of inches to a couple of feet. They come up right up to the submarine. They'll put their eyes right up to the window and peek inside the sub. This is really a world within a world. We are to show you too. In this chaos, we are passing down through the mid-ocean, and we see creatures like this. This is kind of like an undersea rooster. This guy that looks incredibly formal in a way, and then one of my favorites, whalefish. This is basically scientific data that you're looking at. It's footage that we have collected for scientific purpose, and that's one of the things that Bill's been doing is providing scientists with his first view of animals like this in the world where they belong. They don't catch them in your net, they're actually looking at them down in the world. We're going to take a joystick, sit in front of a computer on the Earth, and press the joystick forward and fly around the planet. We're going to look at the mid-ocean ridge, a 14,000 miles long mountain ridge. The average depth is at the top of it is about a mile and a half. And we're over the Atlantic. That's the ridge right there. But we're going to go across the Caribbean, Central America, and up against the Pacific. 9 degrees north, we make maps of this mountain range with sonar. This is one of those mountain ranges. We are coming around a cliff here on the right. The height of these mountains on either side of the valley is greater than the Alps in most cases, and there's tens of thousands of those mountains out there that haven't been mapped yet. This is volcanic ridge. We're getting down further and further in scale, and eventually we can come up with something like this. This is an icon of our robot, Justin. It's called, and you can sit in a room like this with a joystick and headset and drive a robot like that around the bottom of the ocean in real time. One of the things we're trying to do at Ushel with our partner is to bring this virtual world, this unexplored region back to the laboratory because we see it in bits and pieces right now. We see it either as sound, or we see it as video, or we see it as photograph, or we see it as chemical sensor, but we never have yet put it all together into one interesting picture. Here's where Bill's camera really do shine. This is what called a hydrothermal vent. And when you are seeing here is a cloud of densely packed hydrogen sulfide-rich water coming out of volcanic assets on the seafloor, gets up to 700 degrees Fahrenheit, somewhere in that range. So that's water under the sea. A mile and a half, 2 miles, 3 miles down, we knew it was volcanic back in the 60s, 70s. And then we had some hint that these things exist out along the axis of it, because you've got volcanism, water going to get down from the sea into the cracks in the seafloor, come in contact with magma, and come shooting out hot. We weren't really aware that it would be so rich with hydrogen sulfide. We didn't have any idea about these things, which we call chimney. This is one of these hydrothermal vents, 600 degree Fahrenheit water coming out of the earth on either side of Earth's mountain ranges that are higher than the Alps. So the setting here is very dramatic. The white material is a type of bacteria that thrive at 180 degrees Celsius. Gallo, I think that's one of the greatest stories right now that we are seeing from the bottom of the sea, is that the first thing we see coming out of the seafloor after a volcanic eruption is bacteria, and we started to wonder for a long time, how did it all get down there? What we found out now is that it's probably coming out from the inside of the earth. Not only is it coming out of the earth, so biogenesis met from volcanic activity, but that's bacteria support these colonies of life. The pressure here is 4,000 pounds per square inch, a mile and a half from the surface to 2 miles to 3 miles. No sun has ever gotten down here. All the energy to support this life form is coming out from inside of the earth. So chemosynthesis, and you can see how dense the population is. These are called tube worm. Biolange. This worm have no digestive system. They have no mouth. They have 2 types of geo structures. One for extracting oxygen out of the deep sea water. Another one which houses the gymnastic bacteria, which take the hydrothermal fluid, that hot water that you saw coming out of the bottom, and convert that into simple sugar that the tube worm can digest. Gallo, you can see that here's a crab that lives down here. Has managed to grab a tip of this worm. Now let's normally retract as soon as the crab touched them. I'll get going. So as soon as crab touch them, they retract down into their shell, just like your fingernail. There's a whole story being played out here, and that we just now beginning to have some idea of because of this new camera technology. Beyond, these worms live in a real temperature extreme. The food is at about 200 degrees Celsius, and their hair is out of 3 degrees Celsius. So it's like having your head in boiling water and you feel it's freezing water. That's how they like to live. Laughter. Gallo, this is a female of this kind of worm, and here's a male. You watch. It doesn't take long before two guys here. This one and one that will show up over here start to fight. Everything you see is played out in the pitch black deep sea. There are never any lights there except the lights that are bringing. Here they go. On one of the last dive series, we counted 200 species in these areas. 198 were new species. Bill Lynch. One of the big problems is that for biologists working at these sites, it's rather difficult to collect these animals and that disintegrate on the way up, so imagery is critical for the science. Gallo. Two octopods at about 2 miles depth. These pleasure things, it really amazed me that these animals can exist there at depth with pressure enough to crush the Titanic like an empty plastic can. What we saw up till now was from the Pacific. This is from the Atlantic. Even greater depth. You can see the stream is harassing this poor little guy here, and you bet it waded with his whack. Laughter. And the same thing is going on over here. What they're getting at is that the back of the crab, the food stuff here is very strange bacteria that lives on the back of these animals. And what this stream are trying to do is actually harvest the bacteria from the back of these animals, and the crab don't like it at all. These long filaments that you see on the back of the crab are actually created by the product of the bacteria. So the bacteria grow hair on the crab. On the back, you see this again. The red dot is the light of the submarine of Alvin to give us an idea about how far away we are from the event. Those are strange, but you see this hot water over here, and here coming out, the clinging to a rock face and actually scraping bacteria off the rock face. Here's a tiny little vein that's come out of the side of the pillar. These pillars get up to several stories, so here you got this very valley with this incredible alien landscape of pillars and hot springs and volcanic eruption and earthquakes inhabited by these very strange animals that live only on chemical energy coming out of the ground. They don't need the sun at all. Beyond Lynch. You see this white V-shaped mark on the back of the shrimp. It's actually a light sensing organ. It's how they find the hydrothermal vents. The vents are emitting the black body radiation in IR signature, and so they're able to find these vents at considerable distances. Gallo. All this stuff is happening along that 40,000 miles long mountain range that we are calling the ribbon of life, because just even today as we speak, there's life being generated from volcanic activity. This is the first time we have ever tried this in any place. We are going to try this to show you high definition from Pacific. We're moving up one of these pillars. This one's several stories tall. In it, you'll see that's inhabited for a lot of different animals. There's funny kind of hot plate here with then water coming out of it. So all of these are individual home for worms. Now, here's a closer view of the community. Here's crabs here, worms here, these are smaller animals crawling around. Here's the pagoda structures. I think this is the neatest looking things. I just can't get over this. You've got this little chimney sitting here, smoking away. This stuff is toxic as hell. By the way, you could never get a permit to dump this into the ocean, and it's coming out of from it. Laughter. It's unbelievable. It's basically sulfuric acid, and it's being just dumped out in incredible rates, and animals are starving, and we probably came from here. That's probably where we evolved from. Bill Lange. This material that we have been talking about turns out to be the most simplest form of life found. There are a number of groups that are proposing that life involves at least van site, although the van site are short-lived. The individual site may last only 10 years or so, and an ecosystem that has been so stable for millions, well, billions of years. There we go. It works too well. You see, there's some fishing site here as well. There's a fish sitting here. Here's a crab with his claw right at the end of the tube worm, waiting for the swarm to stick his head out. Laughter. The biologists right now cannot explain why these animals are so active. The worms are growing inches per week. I already said that this site, from a human perspective, is toxic as hell. Not only that, but on top, the light bulb, the plumbing systems turn off every year also. The plumbing systems turn off the site, so the site have to move. And there's earthquake there, and then volcanic eruption on the order of one every 5 years that completely wipes the area out. Despite that, these animals grow back in about a year time. You're talking about biodensities and biodiversity. Again, higher than the rainforest forests that just spring back to life. Is it sensitive? Yes, it's fragile. No, it's not really fragile. I went up with saying one thing: the story in the sea, in the water of the sea, in the sediment and the rocks of the seafloor. It's an incredible story. What we see when we look back in time in those sediment and rocks is a record of Earth's history. Everything on this planet, everything works by cycle rhythm. The continents move apart, they come back together, ocean come and go, mountains come and go, glacier come and go, El Nino comes and go. It's not disaster, it's a rhythmic. What we are learning now, it's almost like a symphony. It's just like music. It's really just like music. And we are learning now is that you can't listen to a 5 billion years long symphony, get to today and say, stop, we want tomorrow's note to be the same as it was today. It's absurd. It's just absurd. So we've got to learn now as to find out where this planet is going at this different scale and work with it. Learn to manage it. The concept of preservation is fertile. Conservation is tougher, but we can probably get there. Thank you very much. Thank you. Applause.